Today we're taking the opportunity to replace the rear crank seal on Mike's B18 in his rallying 544. What I'll do on this video is we'll go in fast time, removal of the gear stick, then removal of the prop shaft, removal of the gearbox, then out comes the bell housing, followed by the flywheel, then we'll go into slow time. So all that'll be in quick time with no voiceover, and then we'll go back to slow time as soon as I get inside of the flywheel. Okay, let's start off with removal of the gear stick. And off with the reverse switch wire. And we have a significant amount of oil here, so I think we're doing the right thing here, judging by that. And off with the speedo cable and its trip adapter. There we go, making sure we don't lose the adapter's little square drive there. Okay, now let's just remove the clutch operating rod. Good, that's off. And off with the prop shaft. In this instance, I reckon we can just remove the front end of the prop shaft and tuck it up out of the way. I don't think we have to remove the entirety, but you might find otherwise. Okay, the prop shaft is now tucked up the top there. Let's pop out the gearbox support. Okay, I've taken the bolts out of the gearbox cross member, so I'm just going to pop that bolt across and there we go. Now we're just going to gently allow the gearbox to lower such that the engine is effectively being held on the exhaust manifold here. Okay, out with the gearbox, and this is my 3/8 wobble drive. This is the trick tool for getting the gearbox out. Makes life very easy, as you'll see. Okay, so my 4 bolts are out of the gearbox to the bell housing. The prop shaft's clear. I've removed the reverse switch wire, so really our gearbox is free to come out. Now be a bit careful here. Sometimes they're a little bit reluctant to part company with the bell housing, and if you use a lever of some description, they can sometimes let go very quickly and shoot back and drop. But most of the time, they'll just ease out. As this one is. There we go. Just make sure that's fully out of the way. There we go. Okay, let's tuck that out of the way, and now it's off with the bell housing. I'm going to tuck the earth strap with its bolt out of the way there. Now this one's always the devil to get at. Can sometimes actually be better to start off by removing that bolt from the engine bay. So this right hand bell housing bolt is best just to slacken it off from up the top here, because it's a difficult one to get at. There we go, there's a few turns, and out it comes. Good. And if you support the starter motor at the front whilst trying to take the top bolt out, you'll find it much easier. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to pop the release bearing out there, and with any justice, right, next is off with the clutch pressure plate, and so that the clutch plate doesn't just drop out when the pressure plate comes off, I've just popped in my alignment tool. So that's the clutch friction disc and pressure plate out. And this, you can see here, is one of our scalloped flywheels. There we go, off comes the flywheel. And we're just going to remove this brace. Okay, at last we're where we want to be. So we pop out the two bottom bolts. And then I slacken off the next two adjacents. Like so. Just make sure they're completely slack. Good, like that. Now it's off with the 6 seal housing bolts. And now with a pairing blade, we want to gently part the top of the sump gasket from the bottom there of the housing. And it'll be fairly easy except for where you get to the 2 bolts, which tends to bind itself where the bolts have been. So it's at the bolts here and here that we want to pay most attention, because we really don't want to damage that sump gasket if we can help it. Okay, let's now try and ease this away. So I'm going to start at the top there, just gently ease it forward. Look, there we go. Let's just gently ease them out there. That is now free of the sump gasket. So we can now draw it off. There we go, leaving the sump gasket intact. And out with the housing gasket, don't forget that, easy to leave that in place. Okay, so we're going to pop out this old neoprene and just pop your tool underneath the soft lip there. Oops. And there it goes. Yep. That's the old one that we've just taken out of the car, and this is the same width as Volvo had when they supplied the seals. Look at the difference.
That's good.
And we think that's part of it, but the other part of it is that we used to buy these from a company called NAK, and they always had a direction of rotation stamped on them. It is the direction of the scroll work on the soft lip here that is what makes all the seal. Now, our engines rotate that way relative to the seal, and the scroll work is going in that direction on the bottom here. So that means, yes, it's desperately trying to dump oil back in and prevent it from going out. This has the same, so that's no different. I think it is all to do with the thickness, and I think this is just wrong. So let's go and press that into the housing. Okay, this is bare metal on this edge, followed by the neoprene bonding material. So I'm just going to put a little lick of grease around that bottom edge just to help it in. There we go. There it is, ready to rock and roll. There we go. That's nicely, ever so slightly proud, but I'm happy with that. So, next we'll get the gasket. Okay, for some reason, the housing gasket is always made slightly too long. So, lay your housing over it, match up the two bottom holes, and score the two excess tabs, and then we're just going to neatly cut those off. Slightly proud of the score, to be honest, so that there's something that clearly engages with the sump gasket. There we go. Then we're just going to put some grease on the lip of the neoprene seal. There we go. And I also use grease to hold the gasket in place whilst we offer it up. There we go, like so. Okay, let's go to the car. Right, just got to clean around here, round the rear of the crankshaft, and just inspect and run your finger over that to make sure if it's got a significant groove in it, well, to be honest, you might be wasting your time trying to put a new seal on. But if it's not heavily grooved, then you've got a good chance of getting a good seal with that new neoprene. And then with our brake and clutch cleaner, we're just going to carefully go round, cleaning off machine face, but also the top of the sump gasket. There we go. That's all clean and ready. Just to make life easy, let's put a smidge of grease around the crankshaft rear. Like so. And finally, to give ourselves the best chance of a seal with the gasket, we're going to pop on some blue Hylamar. And a wee lick on the gasket also. Now I'm going to go straight in whilst that blue Hylamar is still liquid, rather than allowing it to set. And there. And then I typically use my fingernails, but I suppose a screwdriver might work, just to engage that lip over the rear of the crankshaft whilst gently pressing in. Now you have to be very careful here because there's that spring behind the neoprene there. That's it. So I've got the neoprene on there. By being careful, the spring that holds the lip on the neoprene shouldn't pop out. So I've got that there, and we just push back. There it goes. And now we can just put the bolts back in. And I torque those down to 10 Newton meters. In with the 2 bottom bolts. And I torque those to 21 Newton meters. Okay, we like SKF for the spigot bearing, and we use the sealed version, not the open one that Volvo had. And just offer that up. Oh, that engaged nicely. Usually, I find an appropriate socket and just gently tap it home like so. Back in with the spring clip, and just rotate it so you know it's engaged properly, and then it's on with the flywheel. Just get a couple of threads on each and gently spin them on. And then I use this little fitting just to stop the flywheel from rotating as we torque it down. Up it goes there, then drop it onto a tooth. There it goes. That will stop the flywheel from rotating now. And then 55 Newton meters. And a quick check. Clean the surface of the flywheel with brake cleaner. And also the clutch pressure plate. If it's brand new, it'll have storage grease on it. That's why always do the clutch pressure plate. And then the new friction disc goes on with the alignment tool, like so, followed by the clutch pressure plate. Engage the locating dowels and then pop in the 6 bolts. And the way I like to do this is I take them all down finger tight and then go round 1, 2, 1, 2, doing them up evenly. Oh, that one's just bedded. So we'll take the rest of them down till they're seated on the flywheel. There we go. And torque them. And the clutch cover bolts are on 30 Newton meters. There we go. That's a nice sign. If your clutch alignment tool comes out very smoothly, it really does mean that it's beautifully in line with the spigot bearing. So it's a good chance everything will go together nicely. Out with the flywheel clamp. And now we're just done the meat of it. We're just going to reassemble the rest of the ancillaries in quick time. Good, that's that secure. Let's get the bolt on, the nut. Let's get the nut on. Yep. So that's a new neoprene seal in Mike's car. That just leaves me to check the gearbox oil level, take it out for a test drive, then we'll put the sump guard back on. As you've seen, the significant time is getting at that rear seal. The replacement of the seal itself is, be careful with it and it'll go fine. Don't rush it, take your time and be careful. And then gives you the chance to clean up all those other bits as well so they're nice and oil free. Okay, rear crank seal replacement. And always make sure you use the 10mm fat neoprene, not that horrible narrow one. I think that's all I have to say on that.